Hey up, it's Steve from Old Yorkshire Geek, and welcome to part 8 of my series, my top 5 favourite films for each year since I've been born, or that I've been alive. I still haven't worked out the title for it, and we're up to part 8. Whatever. Right, so we're up to 1974, as you can see there. We started in 1967, the year I was born. Great films such as, and then as we've gone through, we've got films like Planet of the Apes and 2001 and all films like that. But up to 1974, these are my top 5 favourite films of that year. Not necessarily the best films of that year, though I would argue that they are, because they're my favourites. But we've eschewed in years past, like 1972 or whatever, we've eschewed films such as The Godfather, which, yes, I say, is a great film, but it's not one of my favourite films. So there we go. So that's what I mean when I say they may not necessarily be the best films of that year, but they are my favourite ones that I'll watch over and over again. Right, so they're not in any order. This is not a list or a countdown. It is a list. It's not a countdown. So they're not in any particular order. Number 1's not my favourite, or number 5's not the least favourite. They're just, in a random order. Right, so we shall begin, shall we? So first up on my list, not a countdown, is The Satanic Rites of Dracula, a Hammer film. And it's a direct sequel to Dracula AD 1972. And these two Dracula films from Hammer are my two favourites, which is a bit of a dodgy choice. A lot of people don't like these two films. I don't know why. I love them. I think they're amazing. And this one, The Satanic Rites of Dracula, it's like an episode of like The Professionals or The Avengers or something that's got that feel to it. It's very modern. And it's got like a secret agent stuff going on and all things like that. And government departments are investigating, this occult sect and taking, photographs of high-ranking people going into this occult sect. So it's probably like a play on like the Hellfire Club, but put into modern times. But we learn that Dracula is the leader of this sect, and they try and take a picture of him, but they don't. But anyway, it's a great film, directed by Alan Gibson, starring, obviously, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, reprising their roles as, Count Dracula and Van Helsing. I can't remember his first name. Is the same Van Helsing, Lorimer, that's it, Lorimer Van Helsing, is the same Van Helsing that were in Dracula AD 1972, a descendant of the original Van Helsing from the old days, and just happens to look exactly like him. One unfortunate thing in this is, although most of the same cast that appeared in the first one, not most of the cast, I mean, people that appeared in the first one reprised their roles in this one, except for Van Helsing's granddaughter Jessica. In Dracula AD 1972, she was played by the lovely Stephanie Beacham, and in this one she's played by the lovely Joanna Lumley. But, she's lovely, but she's no Stephanie Beacham, when all's said and done. But, so there we go. Anyway, it's a great film. I really like it. As I said, it plays like, a secret agent film or a James Bond or something like that, without the exotic locales. It's a Hammer film after all. But it's great stuff. I really like it. So give it a whirl. Satanic Rites of Dracula and Dracula AD 1972. So that's that one. Right, moving on. James Bond next. The Man with the Golden Gun, the second Bond film for Roger Moore. This was directed by Guy Hamilton. Is this might be the last one directed by Guy Hamilton? Yes, it is. And it's a lot of fun. It's not the greatest of the Bond films. Again, Christopher Lee's in it as the Bond villain Scaramanga, who famously has 3 nipples. Why? Is it just like an identifying thing so that they know it's him? Probably. But they could have thought of something else, couldn't they? Like, a birthmark or a tattoo. Why give him 3 nipples? Don't know. But it's not uncommon. I've got one as well. I'm not showing you. Anyway, right. So, where were we? Directed by Guy Hamilton. Obviously, produced by Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Broccoli, starring Roger Moore, Christopher Lee, Britt Eklund and Maud Adams, who would reappear in Octopussy as a different character. And it's a lot of fun. James Bond's going after Scaramanga, who is like an assassin, and apparently he wants to kill James Bond. James Bond's got a price on his head, so he's got to get him before he gets Bond, so to speak. And obviously it's Bond, so there's exotic locations, Thailand, Hong Kong, etc., Macau. And it's a lot of fun. It's not the best, but it's still great. I don't like the scene where they're in like the waxworks thing, and it's obvious that the people, obviously people are cheaper to just make stand still than create waxworks of them, and so I don't like that. But it's still a lot of fun. It's a great film, and it's got a laser beam in it, which is what you want in a James Bond film. Although it's technically not a laser beam, but it looks like one. It's the sun, the power of the sun. So there we go. So give that one a whirl if you haven't already. Surely you have. Everybody's seen every James Bond film, surely. Right, so let's move on. Next one, another horror. Not a Hammer film this time, an Amicus one. One of their anthology horrors or portmanteaus, whatever you want to call them. This one is From Beyond the Grave, directed by Kevin Connor, who we'll see in a little bit. He gets 2 credits in this list. And it's my favourite of the Amicus anthology films. It's great. Stars Peter Cushing, yeah. Who else has got it in? Donald Pleasance, Ian Bannon, Dinah Dawes, David Warner, Ian Ogilvy, Leslie Ann Down, Ian Carmichael, and who else? And many others. And it's a great film. It's got 5 stories. David Warner plays a man. Peter Cushing owns an antique store or a second-hand shop or whatever you want to call it. Objet d'art. But it's called Temptations, and each item, they could have made a TV series about this. I'm surprised they didn't. Each item has a story behind it, and if you're not honest with with Peter Cushing's character, he's never given a name, but he does a great Yorkshire accent. If you're not honest with him, or if you try and rip him off, you will, there are consequences. So that happens with the first one, the Gatecrasher with David Warner. He gets a mirror, which turns out to be haunted. So obviously that doesn't go well. There's another one called An Act of Kindness, starring Ian Bannon and Donald Pleasance and Angela Pleasance and Diana Dawes, about a man who, I think, does he steal it or does he not? I think he steals a medal from the shop, and obviously that goes awry for him as well. Then there's The Elemental, which I really like, and I just wish we got to see The Elemental in it. It's about a fella that gets like a demon attached to him, and Margaret Leighton plays the clairvoyant that's tasked to remove this demon from him, and it's a lot of fun. Is that segment? But I just wish a bit of Ray Harryhausen stop motion or something like that, so we could see The Elemental, but it's described to us. And the last one is called The Door with Ian Ogilvy and Leslie Ann Down. And this chap, Ian Ogilvy, I'll not spoil it, but he buys a door from the shop and puts it in his house as like a cupboard door, door to a closet. When he opens it, when the clock strikes midnight, if you open it exactly the stroke of midnight, it leads to another room in like a haunted area or whatever. And that was a lot of fun as well. So there we go. I've spoken too much about this film, but I do really like it. It's one of my favourites. We've covered it on Friday Night Appointment with Fear way back when, one of the early ones. It is a lot of fun. So there we go. That is From Beyond the Grave. So right, let's move on. Another film I've covered in Magnificent Mondays this time, quite recently, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Speaking of Ray Harryhausen. He obviously did the visual effects for this film, the stop motion animation. Directed by Gordon Hessler, starring John Philip Law as Sinbad, Carolyn Munro, and Tom Baker. Just before he got his job as the Doctor in Doctor Who, and it was this film that convinced BBC executives that he was the man for the Doctor Who job. So there we go. So Sinbad in this one comes across like an amulet, and the evil Tom Baker character, Kura, he wants it because he's got to find a treasure with it, which will give him eternal life and all this other stuff. And so they're in a cat and mouse chase to find these parts of this amulet, put them together. And obviously there's monsters, and Caroline Munro showing off her ample wares quite a lot, which is fine. And it's a lot of fun, that's it. And it's probably the best, in my opinion, the most, not my favourite. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad's my favourite of the Ray Harryhausen Sinbad films. But this one was probably the best made of them, in terms of, number of monsters and the way that, very imaginatively done and stuff like that. Particularly Carly, the multi-armed statue that comes to life. That's great. So there we go. That's the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Give it a whirl and go and watch Magnificent Mondays from a few weeks ago, where we covered it. Right, finally, another piece of fantasy, and this time another one directed by Kevin Connor, The Land That Time Forgot. Excuse me. This is one of the earliest films I can remember going to the pictures, the cinema, the theatre, whatever you want to call it, to see. How old will I have been? 7 years old. I remember my mum taking me. Oh, my mam. That's how we say it round here. My mam. My mam took me to see this, and I think it was a double feature. There were this and the first film, the B movie, or whatever you want to call it, that was on with it, was Island at the Top of the World, which I wasn't very keen on as a 7-year-old. But I've seen it since. I think it's on Disney Plus. I've seen it since. That is a really good film, if you watch it as an adult or an older kid, I suppose. But anyway, we're talking about The Land That Time Forgot, which is a great film, directed by, as I said, by Kevin Connor, written by Michael Moorcock, unfortunate name, but, a classic sci-fi writer, and James Cawthorne, based upon the novel by Edgar Rice Burroughs, starring, of course, Doug McClure, John McHenry, Susan Penhaligon, Keith Barron, and Anthony Ainley, before he became the Master. So what it's about is a ship. It's set in 1918. A ship. Is it 1918 or was it before then? Based on that, it's set during the First World War. So it's obviously, it could be 1918 because that's when it ended, didn't it? But it's set during the First World War, and a ship is sunk by a German U-boat, and the U-boat picks up survivors, including Doug McClure and Susan Penhaligon, and they end up travelling to this mysterious island of Caprona. In the submarine, and they find there's dinosaurs there and cavemen and stuff like that, and it's a lot of fun. They're not stop motion dinosaurs, unfortunately. There's no Ray Harryhausen 1 million years BC going on here. They're all puppets and stuff. I think done by Roger Deakin. I could be wrong. Let me check. Does it say here in the I could be wrong. I probably am, and it's not saying. Yes, Roger Deakin, who did the Chestburster and stuff in Alien, and also did Warlords of Atlantis, another Magnificent Monday film. And it's a lot of fun. Obviously, the creatures don't look as great as like they would do if they were a Ray Harryhausen film, but it is a lot of fun. It's wunderbar, to quote a line from the film. It was followed by, I think, 2 sequels. There were The People That Time Forgot, which is fine, but that stars Patrick Wayne. He did that the same year as he did Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. And then there was, I think, The Creatures That Time Forgot, which I think might not be a direct sequel. I think they're just cashing in on the name. And I don't think there's any monsters or anything in that one. It's not very good. It's not very good. But The Land That Time Forgot and The People That Time Forgot are worth a watch. So there we go. So give it a whirl. Right, so we'll leave it there. So we'll go over the list one last time. First up was Satanic Rites of Dracula. That was followed by The Man with the Golden Gun. Then we had From Beyond the Grave. then The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and finally we had The Land That Time Forgot. A great selection, in my opinion. We've got a bit of horror and a James Bond film and some fantasy. What more could you want in a list from 1974? But before we go, let's have a look and see what 1975 might bring us. Let's have a look. What we got in 1975. Obviously, there's a certain shark film. There's a big kaiju monster. A bit of Sean Connery, but not being James Bond. We've got a spooky Australian ghost story. And then we've got a futuristic thriller. So that's what we've got coming in 1975. Right, so we'll leave it. We will definitely leave it there this time. So, thanks for watching. Wherever you are, look after each other, and until next time, I'll see thee.